Boy, read something. Never thought I'd read something interesting about this next record, but some of the inspiration that goes to these records can be surprising at times. Make Love Stay by Dan Fogelberg. Very mainstream artist by the late 70s, early 80s. Make Love Stay at number 9, up from number 18 on my fancy playlist of March 18th, 1983. First song by Dan Fogelberg. The album that I remember. The album was Souvenirs, produced by Joe Walsh, part of the Plan. Winter, spring of 1975, got as high as number 31 here in the States. And it sounded like Dan Fogelberg was kind of a singer-songwriter following the tradition of, say, James Taylor or maybe Paul Simon. But when it got heavy a little bit on strings and rocked out a little bit later on, he had oh gosh, there was Longer in 1980. He did a lot of slow records, Longer, and Leader of the Band, Run for the Roses, and I'm trying to think of the one that he did in 1978. I think it was The Power of Gold. That was a little up tempo. And then he came out with this song in 1984, and I forgot the name of it. The thing just rocked. The record rocked. And I pulled it. I'm going to have to pull it up because I forgot the name of it. I think it's called Language of Love in 1984. He really went to town on that one. It was a rocker. Windows and Walls, I believe, was the name of the album, The Language of Love. Yes. Went to number 13 here in the States. But that was, I think, his last big hit. But let's get to this record, Make Love Stay. It's off a Greatest Hits album that came out in 1982. Two new cuts by him on his Greatest Hits album. This record was inspired by a chapter written around a chapter from a book. I gotta read this book because I did some research on it. This sounds like a killer book. It was inspired by a book by Tom Robbins called Still Life with Woodpecker, based on a chapter from that book. Basically, this book is about a love affair between an environmentalist, a princess environmentalist. So her name was Lee Sherry. Lee Sherry, a love affair between her and an outlaw, a bomb thrower named Woodpecker. And she's a big supporter. She goes to Carefest, which is imaginary in Hawaii, which features political and environmental and scientific speakers, big, big liberal, vegetarian. But outlaw Woodpecker wants to bomb Carefest. Instead, he drinks tequila and he winds up bombing a UFO conference. It's just a brilliant book. And there's an alien in this book who approaches this alien, a blonde, and disguised as a blonde, approaches Leigh Sherry, and Leigh Sherry's a redhead. And this alien tells Leigh Sherry, redheads are not permitted on our planet Argon because redheads are made out of sugar and lust. Fascinating book. I may have to check that one out. Gosh, I didn't know this record would be. Well, anyway, it's Make Love Stay by Dan Fogelberg at number 9 on my fancy playlist, March 18th, 1983.